Welcome to ARW discussion, folks. We've got as our special guest today, we've got Mr. John Mills, also known as Doubleboost. I'm sure you're all subscribed to his channel, and he's no stranger to you. And we've got a backup crew here of some of the usual characters. I think that you'll probably enjoy today. John says we were talking about his casting and his silicon,
sodium silicate.
Yeah, sodium silicate that he was using in molds, which is pretty interesting. And I may be going to use some of it one of these days if I get my hand on some. Do any of you guys have anything special going on right now? Special project or no?
I just have the little goodie that I kind of showed Billy earlier. If you want to start with that.
Yeah, let's take a look at it.
Okay, so yeah, last week Billy was mentioning that he was looking for one of these, and this one it's not for sale, but I do have one. It's the right angle attachment for the Bridgeport mill, and this is a genuine Bridgeport. Okay, and it's got the tailstock unit here. You guys see that? Okay.
Yeah.
And then you've got your arbor, R8 on this side, and I didn't measure the diameter. It looks like about 3/4 for the support end, and it's a 1-inch arbor. The thing you got to have when you put this on the quill of the Bridgeport, you actually have to extend the quill down. It goes down inside the housing here, and in order to, it's got an R8 taper on the inside. This bolt actually goes on the other side, but you have to have an extended drawbar because you got to be able to. Otherwise, the drawbar will be down inside the spindle. So they make a longer drawbar, which I have to clamp everything up. They do have this also. This is just an extension if you just want to use the regular drawbar. So I've actually got both. And I've never used it. It came with my Bridgeport. I want to try it. It's just haven't had any time to set it up and to do some testing with it. The collet here in the arbor support's kind of interesting. It almost looks like an R8, but it's so it's a bronze bearing. Get it out of here. Oops, here we go. So, yeah, so it's made like a collet, so you can adjust the fit, which is kind of interesting. And I did check; it's not an R8. It's something unique. I don't think it crosses over to anything, but so that's the setup. I've never even mounted it on my mill. But I did take some measurements, and from what I've been able to determine, you've got to have the ram extended all the way out to use it. And it's and they may have shorter arbors, but with this particular one, you've got to have the ram all the way extended, and it leaves you just enough room to get that arbor in there. Yeah. So.
Hey, Dean.
Yeah.
I've got a similar attachment. It's called a bore mate. And I thought I was going to have to make a new drawbar for mine too, but it turns out I just use a long deep socket with an extension, and you can go down inside the quill and still tighten your drawbar down inside.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So you might try that, before you make sure your socket's not going to pop off of your extension or it's stuck down there.
Yeah. Okay.
But I thought I was going to have to make a new one, and I didn't have to.
Yeah.
I've got a long drawbar on mine, like I was talking about when I'm teaching my students how to use the Bridgeport. I like it because you can use your palm of your hand to, after you loosen up the drawbar, you can just spin it with your palm of your hand, 2 or 3 whaps, and you've got your collet out. So,
yeah,
I like the long drawbar.
It's got the same spreader blocks here to grip the ram, just like the normal ram locks have. and then and it's also got a slide mechanism here, so you can center it up if you need to.
Yeah,
So it's pretty well thought out, and it's all cast iron. I'm not sure. I know they make an import version. I don't know if they're aluminum or not, but this everything here is cast iron.
that's exactly what I'm looking for.
Sorry,
I can find
Billy.
them, but finding them at a reasonable cost is the problem. They fetching pretty good dollars now.
All right, yeah, and from the research that I've done, which is not a whole lot, but they say you got to keep your cuts fairly light. You're not going to turn it into a full blown horizontal mill.
Well, you need to hook it up and try it out so we can find out if we want one.
Yeah, and then you're all going to blow the market up, and I'll never be able to get one.
Yeah. I hope to try it at some point. Maybe this winter when things slow down a little bit. I've just been so busy. It's just ridiculous lately.
That's what happens.
Yeah.
It's been a while since we've had Steve there. What's up, Steve?
Hey,
Yeah,
Steve.
I made it.
Hey, Steve.
I've got to kill that sun behind me.
Oh,
Yeah, it's blowing you out.
Yeah.
there you go. I almost got in trouble here last week when I started talking about those mini splits. Turned out two of the guys I had them.
That's better.
Yeah.
All right.
I can tell you, it's good though that I keep an air conditioner in my shop. This time of year, it won't get much lower than 80 degrees in there, but it keeps the tools from rusting.
Yeah, we don't have that problem here on the West Coast. We're not sure what that rust stuff looks like.
All right.
Tell you what, you come up my neck of the wood.
Well, I'll tell you
We
what.
know exactly what it looks like, rusting metal. We
Yeah.
know exactly. Yeah.
You can clean it off, lay it down, come back this afternoon, and it's already starting to rust.
Wow.
And especially when you touched with your fingers, that's
Getting ready to say.
you leave fingerprints. Yeah.
I was getting ready to say when I've got people handling the gauge blocks, I tell them when you're done, go grab the can of spindle oil and oil them back up before you put them in there. I don't want no acid fingers on my gauge blocks. It happens, and they look at me like I'm crazy when I'm telling them that. But no, you get rusted fingerprints on there. It's kind of freaky.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm thankful that Alberta is fairly dry as far as humidity. So, I mean, unless it's been right after a rainstorm or something like that, it's pretty forgiving up here, thankfully. Wintertime is really dry, actually, in the house.
Right now.
Everett, don't you have problems with static electricity on carpet and all other plastic things?
Yeah, when it gets dry, like especially in wintertime, that's one thing you definitely have to watch for. You don't really want to be playing.
Sometimes we have over here too, when it's freezing a couple of days. You get drilled every time you touch the sink or something else.
That's why you have ground straps.
I like to wear wool socks too, so yeah, every time I go flip a light switch on, I get a little zap from the screw on the switch plate. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. So you see here we have both. We can get zapped because it's too dry, and everything is rusting because it's too much humidity in the air.
Yeah.
We have all of it.
When I started working in the computer group, we had this big old Foxborough mainframe computer, and you were supposed to touch the case or something before you got a hold of anything. So one day I went over, I got on the auxiliary keyboard, and zap, there went a whole pile of circuit boards. Killed the thing deader than a doornail.
I was
static.
I was demoing one of my robots for the robot club I was in a couple of years ago, and had the lid off of it, and I touched the heatsink on the CPU, and I felt a little tingle, deader than a doornail. Right before the demo, I was so pissed.
Oh man.
Game over.
Game over, literally. Yeah.
We were out at the, I don't know if you guys saw, we were out at the BattleBots shoot a couple weekends ago over in Vegas. And the builder's tent is it's put up on just a blacktop parking lot, but there's a raised deck, a plastic raised deck that they put in, and they build this big circus tent over it, pump air conditioning into it, lighting, all the data and communication stuff. It's a big setup. But these poor guys, when you walk around on that plastic floor, it's a plastic raised deck about 3 inches thick. You build up so much static electricity, and they had all these stainless steel tables out there for all the builders. And just walking up and down the aisles, if you get, me and Bollinger were just shocking each other on purpose just because it was fun. But you kind of walk up behind him and go like you're going to touch his earlobe, and he can hear it and feel it, and you can see the spark.
Yeah, I can see the spark, and you hear this click.
Yeah, but it's right there in his ear, so it just scares the hell out of him. So that was pretty standard for us to go around shocking each other. And but I feel sorry for the BattleBot builders. There's a lot of electronics in those fighting robots, and I'm sure they're fighting static electricity, trying not to, damage their stuff.
Yeah. That was pretty interesting. The video that you did, Stan. That's some amazing materials those guys use.
Well, I never had a chance to weld titanium before, so I got to weld titanium for the first time, and it's really cool stuff to weld. And after you learn the rules, it's okay. You got to put a lot of argon to it, and from both directions. Don't ever let it'll oxidize in the blink of an eye, and then your whole part's ruined.
Huh. You had a back purge as well, I assume.
We had back purges set up, so we had an auxiliary bottle of argon going. We were running the torch with the biggest cup we could get, a big gas lens, and running 40 CFH on it, and just pushing that argon there. Your post purge is like 60 seconds. You want it to run almost a full minute over the part, and you want because it glows red just like steel, but you want it to stay under gas until it's completely cooled, or it turns that bright, nice silvery color and just turns flat gray, and then you've oxidized it and you can't weld it anymore.
We used to weld small parts like that in a purge chamber. So you had a chamber where your arms going through and a glass on the front, and it was completely purged and argon both sides. That works very well.
Yeah,
John,
but we had a good time with it. We got to weld some of the exotics. I'd never welded magnesium before. So that was interesting, and just got to make sure you don't catch it on fire.
Yeah.
So
no thermite needed.
Yeah. We had the fire department. They had their own fire group, and the fire department came by and gave us a special fire extinguisher for putting out molten metals if we needed it. So we had a standard fire extinguisher, an ABC, plus we had a molten metals fire extinguisher for if we did catch something on fire. So we had both of those in our tent.
That'd have been fun to have been there.
It was a good time.
You throw water on it. No, you don't throw water on magnesium.
No, you don't throw water on a magnesium fire. I think they call that a hydrogen bomb.
I worked down on the Battleground Road in the plant. There was a chemical plant just right next to. I was working in the lumberyard at the time. The chemical plant down the road had a lot of magnesium stuff, and every once in a while you'd hear a big boom from down there. We always said there's an opening down the street now, but that's just got to be some dangerous stuff to have to process, as an industry.
Uh-oh, somebody's phone's ringing.
Yeah, my phone's ringing. How'd you know? Oh,
Yeah, I'm surprised mine hasn't rung.
It's not me. Mine's Monty Python.
no, I got to answer it though. You guys carry on.
All right. So, John, did you get that oiler working on that steam engine?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Okay, so that thing's ready to put into service now.
I've got to go now to do. It's nearly ready. That little the little glass receiver on the oil pump, it needs to be filled with water, not oil. And the oil bubbles, the oil globules go up that thin wire. That's how you know it's working. So
Okay.
I wondered what out with it. That's how it works. It's got a thin wire through the middle of the glass, and if you fill the glass with water, then you can see the oil going up in little bubbles. Well, it's just coming on quite this year.
Yeah. So what would they have used that engine on? Was that like for driving a pump, or was it?
They were basically a 1940s electric motor, because all the factories had steam, so you had that as a portable source of power.
Okay.
Generators, pumps, compressors, fans. That particular one I got was on a tugboat, and it drew a water pump, but it had never been used. It's never been run at all.
It's a cool machine.
Yeah, I've seen some small turbine water pumps. They actually had a miniature turbine with a gearbox, and then they would run like what would normally be maybe a 5 horsepower water pump.
That's right.
But they were decommissioned, no longer in operation. But it would have been interesting to see something like that working.
Definitely, the turbines use a lot of steam. But if you've got a big steam boiler like on a ship, it wouldn't make any difference how much steam you used. It's just convenient, I think.
Yeah.
I was in a steam rally earlier this year, and a lad had one of those engines running on steam, and it's 2 horsepower at 1,000 RPM.
So this engine you are restoring comes from a ship.
It would come from a tugboat. Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, a tugboat. Yeah.
But it was never used. A lot of them were there just in case they needed them. When I bought it, I knew it was seized up. But I was expecting a frozen piston.
I've seen in the video.
The crankcase full of rust wasn't right.
Chuck showing off his shirt there.
You see clearly in your video
excellent.
that you clear a few tons of rust out of this thing. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of rust come out of it.
I forgot Hey, Chuck, how you doing?
Hey, Chuck.
Sorry to be
Chuck.
late.
I forgot to wear my Doubleboost shirt today. I should have worn it.
Yeah, I got one too.
Mine as well.
I'm surprised nobody's noticed mine. I got the KLMs.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool one.
Yeah.
I noticed your shirt, but I didn't know where it came from.
From Vietnam.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll be right back. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Okay.
I think Chuck's got the game on.
I don't know. I thought
There's a party going on.
I heard some sirens.
Yeah.
Sounded like he'd been invaded.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, we had a free rock concert last night. One of the neighbors, they do a charity thing on the next street over, and they had a band. They went till about 9:30 last night. But, they actually had played some pretty good music, so it wasn't too bad.
That's good. You can invite yourself and go have a listen. That's always good.
Yeah.
Oh, he's back.
He's back.
Sorry about that. My family yelling in the background. Yeah, the 49ers are playing.
Oh.
They actually looked okay today. What happened?
They just fumbled, and there's one touchdown, and Detroit can tie now, where they were ahead
Okay.
multiple touchdowns. Anyway,
It sounded like sirens, Chuck. I thought I heard sirens.
yeah, they're in there howling.
I thought you was getting busted for pot.
Oh no, that's okay here.
We're on TV.
Oh, it's going to show off now. Yeah.
Just put the TV on.
John, how did you manage to get somebody to give you a plasma table?
Sorry?
How did you talk those guys into giving you a plasma table?
It wasn't difficult, actually. It says, would you like to do a review on a plasma table? And I thought about it for about 3 or 4 seconds and said, yeah.
Think about it.
These are not hard decisions.
No.
Yeah.
The guy who builds the tables sponsors my YouTube channel. Basically, any welding equipment or plasma equipment I want, I can get,
That's
Which
all right.
one did you end up getting?
Pardon?
Which one did you get?
The plasma table is extreme plasma, and it's got an Artec cutter on it. Extreme plasma, they're built in the UK completely. He does everything from the frame. He obviously builds his own PC boards. He buys starter motors in and modifies them, but they're all hand built in the UK. He's currently booked for 3 months. He's got a lead time of 3 months if you want a table.
Wow. So he specializes or caters to the more the hobbyists or the home.
It's hobbyist
The
for
home
light
shop.
engineering. They're not production machines, but you can work them fairly hard. And there's nothing in that price range that's available. He's got them out at corner now for what it is. It is what it is. To improve it, you'd need to go to ball screws, and you're talking doubling the price.
Mm-hmm.
But it slowly gets modified, and there's a modification to come out to get passed on to me, and then I'll do a little bit of video on that, and then it all goes from there.
Has he given any word of expanding to Canada?
He would send one to Canada, yeah. Somebody asked, and he would ship one to Canada.
Yeah, I think everyone's a free one in Canada.
Well, I'd be willing to. Well, it might take a little while to save up for it. I'm not expecting free, but yeah, I got to fill the new garage with something. The wife can't have that much room to park. I got to fill it with something.
And we're planning on building a 5x10 CNC router, and then maybe a 4x4 plasma cutter for the machining area.
The thing with the table I've got as well, it's starting off at 2 foot square, but it's sectional, so it's now 4 foot by 2 foot, and then you can make it 4-4 and 4-8, and all you're going to buy is bits of angle line in box section to put it together, because all the electronics and the starter motors are all the same. So you could take a leg off my machine and take a leg off a machine we made last week, and they'll both swap over. Everything's completely.
Have you guys seen the advertisements for those plasma bots? It's like a big magnetic base you stick down to your material, or if it's aluminum, I'll clamp it down, I guess. But it's got an articulating arm and that's what holds the plasma torch. And,
wow.
I've seen the advertisements actually on YouTube. It's in Kickstarter right now. But he says he's going to be out with them late spring next year.
I saw that.
It was intriguing. I watched the whole thing all the way through. I was pretty intrigued by it. I like the fact that it would run on Fusion 360 or whatever design software you want to use, or you could actually just put a cardboard template down and just take a stylus and go around and follow the template, and it would put it into the CAM software.
I've got a scanning camera with mine, and you could scan the outline of a gasket or anything you want really, and then you put it in the computer, and then you can make it bigger, smaller, stretch it, and then cut it. It's not perfect, but it's good enough for what it is.
Yeah.
Parts are going to be well together,
Well, a lot of the CNC stuff you do for plasma, you're just doing a weldment, and a weldament's not that precise. But like you say, if you're making,
you're talking plus or minus half a mil, but it's really better than that. If you play with the settings, it's better than that. Yeah. The clever thing for me is the torch head controller. Because when you're cutting thin metal, like 1.52 mil steel, it starts to buckle with the heat. So what it does, it senses the voltage on the arc. It moves the torch up and down accordingly to maintain that voltage. So you can basically set it away on a piece of corrugated steel, and it will follow the corrugations across the table. That's the clever part.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, torch height control is
Torch head control, yeah.
Yeah, it's almost imperative these days.
Yeah, I tried building mine without it, and like John said, the metal starts to buckle and bend, and then your torch would be dragging on the metal.
Especially if I couldn't decorative stuff, if you're doing signs. I did a Harley Davidson sign last week, and you could watch the voltages going up and down, and it was amazing. You could see that the plate was buckled an inch in the center, and the torch was following the contour of the plate. I don't know how it works, but it's pretty clever stuff.
Yeah. If you're going to build a plasma torch, you need to have a touch-off switch so that every time that you start a new cut, it touches off and sets itself back to zero.
Yeah.
And you need a torch height control Otherwise, you're just wasting your time. This ain't going to work good. And it'll eat consumables like crazy too. And
So
if
one of
you're,
the important things as well is ventilation, because if the main shift in a small room and the fumes are absolutely terrible. I cut some galvanized plate last week for a lad, and that was really shocking.
You got to be careful with galvanized material.
Yeah, when I first started casting, we did some brass, and I got it too hot, and the zinc was boiling off, and I'd been breathing that in, and it made I was really poorly for a few days. And to the point I rang a doctor up and told him what I've been doing, and he says, "You've got metal poisoning." I says, "It'll probably go away." So it did. But, so now I won't cast brass, and I won't weld galvanized plate.
Speaking of casting, John, you mentioned in one of your videos a while back when you were expanding your table and stuff that you'd moved your casting stuff to your buddy's place. Have you been doing much casting lately?
I've done none at all. Nothing. I've got 2 or 3 nameplates to do, bronze nameplates to do, so I'm going to have to get everything out and do it again. But the gear's still there. I just haven't got room for it where I am. And I've changed to a oil-fired burner instead of propane. That should be better. I've definitely done more casting, definitely.
I was emailing Mark Pressling a couple weeks ago about the foundry I'm getting ready to build. I've got all the parts put together or gathered up. I just hadn't started that project yet. It'll probably be a wintertime project. Should be about a 12-inch diameter by a 12-inch tall chamber.
Yeah.
propane powered, 4-inch walls. What size of a crucible are you using, John?
Silicon carbide.
What size?
What size? I can't remember the number, but it'll be 8 inches high, 6 inches across.
Okay.
Decent big one.
Okay.
I think it's 10 kilos of bronze it was. It's big, it's big enough, yeah.
See, I was going to build, that was on the to-do list for this year, and then for some crazy, silly reason, the wife and I wound up deciding to move like in the middle of the winter time, and so we ended up buying a new house this spring, and I was going to be building a foundry this summer, but I guess it'll be next summer. So it's on the list. It's interesting to see what other people are using.
It's good fun, but I've used steel crucibles for aluminium before, but when you're playing with bronze, it's that hot, it's that you use a proper crucible. People think that the crucibles, because they're ceramic, they're amazingly strong. Actually, when they get hot, they're quite strong. You can't be rough with them, but you can be a lot rougher than you would imagine. You haven't got to treat them you've got to treat them with respect, but you can bang them around a little bit. I was surprised at how resilient they actually are.
I've heard you only get about maybe 25 or 30 uses out of them. Is that true, or maybe that's with cast iron?
If you're doing cast iron, you would. On bronze, you'd probably get near 50.
Okay.
And it's sort of wear thin, but if you look after them, if you clean them out properly, and then I normally do the cast, and then I would clean it out and put it back in the furnace, and let it cool down inside the furnace so it cools really slowly. And
Hey, Billy, do you have a combustion blower yet?
I do not.
Oh, have I got a deal for you?
I remember you talking about this a couple of weeks ago.
No. I'm not even talking about the burner. I got a separate just the blower.
Okay.
I got a high pressure combustion blower. It's 1/4 horsepower. It's got an opposed blade inlet damper, so you can throttle the airflow up and down. We'll talk about it after the show.
All right.
Sounds
interesting. Yeah, this is Bear here was saying use a Maytag washer drum for the outer skin.
I use one of those for going to the desert. I make my fires in them because we just burn pallets, and then after everything's burned down, you just got a dryer drum full of nails, and you're not messing up the desert with a bunch of nails.
If I was making one that big, I probably would. But this one is based on a 30-gallon squat oil drum. I think it's 22 inches across, I think it is.
Do you watch Clark Easterling?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I don't know what size his is, but Clark's a pretty cool guy. You probably ought to have a chat with him about how big his he's got a cast iron setup over there.
Right.
That guy does some really dangerous stuff. It scares the hell out of me watching him.
Yeah. So you watch some of the guys doing that in foreign countries, and they don't even have shoes on, and they're doing
They're doing
that.
it with they're doing
Yes.
they're doing it in sandals over in India, and
Yeah,
holy moly.
yeah.
Yeah, I saw this one guy. His shop, the floor of his shop was his green sand. They just dig the pattern out of the floor and set stuff down in it, and it was amazing. They didn't even have molds to put them in.
Well, a few years back, we went up to this. It was a tank farm up in Northern California called the Pony Tracks Ranch. I was there with Chuck, and the curator there was talking about how the Russians. I lost my camera there. Okay, how the Russians would cast the steel on the upper part of the tank, and you could go up to these tanks. They had one there. And you could go up there and you could see the shovel marks. They would literally just dig a hole in the ground and pour the steel in the ground. There was no two alike. But in the form of that upper part of the tank, you could actually see shovel marks and pick marks in the steel from them doing their castings, which was interesting. It was totally low budget, but they got it done,
In Soviet Russia, tank cast you.
Yeah, I thought it
But
was,
several times, these guys have so much experience with what they're doing. As you talk about India, Afghanistan, even in Africa, when they do castings and other things, it works. These guys, that's their life, their job. They live on their job. They do this several times a day. Of course, if it goes wrong, somebody else has to take his place because he doesn't live anymore. But I mean, it's several times. It's also a family tradition. So the grandfather was a metal caster, and he told his son, and so these guys has so much experience. I think it's fantastic. Now, I personally, I never did any casting in my life, but I can see on YouTube that it's not an easy task. That several times things goes wrong. But these guys, when you see them work, yes, it's scary. It's very scary, but they, as you say, they get it done. I think it's fantastic. And always working on the ground. We have chairs and tables. They always work sitting down on the shop floor, and then they're hammering on a little piece of train rail, and that's their anvil, and they get it done. So,
One of the best things about casting metal, though, is it's kind of like Christmas when you go to break it out of the mold and see if it came out right.
People often say to me, why do you open the mold up when it's still hot? Because I'm an impatient bastard, really. You need to see what's there, that is the best part of opening the mold. The actual making the ramming up with the mold, it's interesting how you do the gating, how you get the gases to come out. There's a lot to learn, hell of a lot to learn. I had an old guy come and showed me some just the way they did things, and he gave us his own molding tools as well, which was absolutely fantastic. I've still got it.
I've never cast any bronze. I tried. I put a bunch of brass stuff in a little steel pot one time, and I put it in my foundry and I heated it up, and it made a lump in the bottom of the little cup. But I really couldn't swear that it was actually ever liquid. Of course, it all fused together. It looks like it was liquid sometimes. But I guess it takes more heat than I'm going to get with natural gas.
The best way if you're going to start with aluminium.
Yeah.
Start with aluminium. If you use something that's already been cast, don't use pistons. Use castings, and you can buy degassing pellets. So you can use water and soda to degas it, and you get good results. Aluminium's easy. You can melt it with a propane torch. You can melt aluminium.
We're going to be doing mostly aluminum to start off with, and we'll move up from there.
I did some cylinder castings with cores in them, and we cast them in aluminium to prove that would work, but it wouldn't work with bronze. Just it was getting loads of shrinkage, shrink back. And this guy had come and he says you need to put an extra feeder in here, so the casting was cooling down quicker than the feeders were. And he put the assurance out to do it, and it come out perfect. And he just knew, he just knew what he was doing.
Yeah. What is it, Sandrammer? Is that the guy? I'm trying to think of his.
There's some guy that retired from the Navy.
That's Sandrammer.
That's Sandrammer.
Yeah, he sent me some literature across, and he knows his stuff. Yeah, he does.
And Myford Boyd seems to know a little bit about it too.
Oh yeah,
Myford Boyd's good, very good. Yeah,
he casts everything. John, have you got any idea why Myford Boyd never talks?
I don't know. I've spoken to him. He can speak. I've spoken to him, and it's just the way he is. I'm the opposite. I can't stop talking. He's got good videos, fantastic following, really nice guy. Just doesn't speak.
I always wondered about that.
Yeah.
Hey, does anybody there have a multi-fix tool post? Any of the guys?
I've got one.
You got one?
I've got one, yeah.
Banggood just sent me one, but it's all you can see. It's a tiny guy. It's only like 3 inches.
Yeah, I've got the same one.
I'm actually surprised. I actually mounted it on my Monarch and had to hold it up 800 thousandths so that it would be at the right height. But it actually, for a little piece, it's fairly stout.
Yeah, they're not bad.
Yeah. So I'm going to let a video out on it. But
is that the only size? Is that the only size they have?
They may have an E, which is bigger.
What is your model there?
It's an A.
A. Okay.
Yeah, it's a little guy. $129, and it gets you the holder and four tooling holders with it.
I don't know how they do it. How do they do that?
It's incredible.
You can't even buy the material for that much.
Yeah, it's in my sense, the review on it is mixed. I mean, $129, you're getting what you pay for $129. But hey, I made 40 thousandths depth of cut, 80 thousandths total on mild steel with it. It didn't even groan.
Wow.
Yeah, which was surprising. So,
I believe Adam Booth uses that kind of tool.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Everybody that I've talked to, once they use it, they love it. They just love them.
Yeah, he's using the Swiss made one, I believe.
Or an
German.
Enco.
It's either German made or Swiss made.
I think he has an Enco.
Oh, really? It's not a genuine multi-fix?
Well, Enco was selling them for quite a while there. I don't know where Enco got them, though.
Oh, okay.
Interesting. The literature on their website is in German. So on Banggood. Banggood doesn't build them. They just sell them.
Yeah.
But they must have grabbed the paperwork because all the dimensions are in German.
Oh, they plagiarized all the paperwork. Nice. Yeah. Okay.
I've already collected too many AXA holders. I'm stuck. I got to go down that path.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, I got to tell a story about Dean. So I went to a shop the other day to pick some stuff up for a buddy that was on Craigslist. And so I get talking to the guy, the owner, and I go, yeah, I have a small shop and I do YouTube videos and stuff. And he goes, I know this guy that's got his 2-car garage. He's been stuffing machines into it. I go, oh yeah. And so then we talk a little longer and he's showing me a single hit and miss engine. And I go, oh, I know this guy that's got him over there off of Lee Avenue. And he goes, well, the guy I'm talking about lives across the street from him. And I go, oh, it's Dean. I know Dean. Small world.
Yep. Yeah, he's a buddy with my neighbor across the street.
Small world.
Yep.
Yeah, unfortunately, the shops, they're closing down. They actually, somewhere 30, 40 years ago, they were manufacturing MG parts out of their own garage in Santa Clara. And then they grew large enough where they had worldwide distribution and moved into a shop. and we're casting, having everything casted, and they do all the machine work. And then someone came in with a little bit of electronics and said, "Hey, can you make this?" And next thing, they're full CNC doing electronics and surgical stuff, and no more. They stopped the MG, and he was showing me all the wood. What do you call them? Not bucks. All the
patterns.
all the patterns, all the wood patterns, the bell housings and brake drums and pumps and all the stuff that they still have from X years ago, but they don't do it anymore. It's really interesting, beautiful stuff.
Well, speaking of liquidations and clearing stuff out, I got an email. A lot of you guys may know Patrick Sullivan. He's kind of a regular, and he runs in our circles. He's been to the bash a couple times. He sent me an email, and he said there's a widow here in Los Angeles. Her husband just died with a shop full of stuff, and he asked me if I'd help and help her get rid of this stuff. And I said, well, the only thing I can really do is if she knows the value of all the machines, the fair market value, have her go around and put the price on all the machines and make the place, straighten it up a little bit, and I'll come over and shoot video and put it up on YouTube and have her have people directly contact her. So that's coming up in about a week or so. I've never done anything like that, but I don't know how successful it would be. But we're just trying to help her out, and she wants to get rid of all this stuff. But there's a lot of stuff. I saw the pictures in the email. There's a lot of stuff to go through.
I think that's something that we all really should
Carl's
be
doing it right now. Good guy.
I think that's something that in some ways we should all be doing. I mean, at some point, an itemized list or whatever, so that if something happens to us, that somebody else can come in and deal with it and not be scratching their heads and getting ripped off, right? So, yeah.
When it comes to my shop, my wife already has, it's a video, but it's my last will and testament about all the stuff in my shop, who it goes to, and what the fair market value of everything is, so she doesn't get taken advantage of.
Perfect.
So she's already got that video, and it's a long one. It's like an hour and a half, and I go machine by machine and talk about what the machine's worth, and I give her some good contacts on people that are already interested in them, people that have already tried to buy them.
Stan,
If I do the same, it will be a really short video. So
Stan, you got my spelling right. 2 M's in Bomberito in your
It depends on what you're looking for. Chuck, you live in a small town, and that Monarch's pretty big. I don't want to flip your town over. Unless your wife would let it go in the living room. If she's cool with that, we'll put that big Monarch in your living room.
I got another garage stall I can empty.
Oh yeah.
If my wife showed
I could store them over here, Chuck.
If my wife showed the machines for the prices I told her I paid for them, it would be absolutely devastating. But I have got 2 good friends that know what I've got, and they know what they're worth, and they know if anything happens to me, they would sort it out and just give them the money.
Mm-hmm.
So, the last thing you want is to leave somebody with all that.
Yeah.
I'd say most of my stuff will probably end up being donated to the makerspace if they're still around.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where the majority of it's at anyway.
I give loads of stuff away now. I've got this giveaway thing going every month, and I've got people send us things in just to be given away.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many 1-inch micrometers do you want? It's pointless having droves full of stuff when people have got no gear or very little gear, and if I can give things away to help people,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always said if somebody wins something they don't want it, give it to somebody that can use it.
Yeah.
Well, I've had some fantastic letters back from people that are getting things off that I've given away, and they've ended up with them, and they've been really, really happy. Some really nice feedback, which is good.
Yeah.
What's the most interesting place you've had to send a viewer or like a draw gift there, John? I've had to mail a couple of things to crazy places. Where's your craziest?
I've had a lot of winners in Australia. I've had one in India, Bangladesh, all over the world, really.
Wow.
And if it's a heavy giveaway, it's never in the UK. I've had one in India. It's always a fortune to pass the post them off,
Mm-hmm.
I did the Doubleboost cups and mugs. I did. People were sending pictures of where they had them, and I had one guy sent to one, and it was in a deep saturation diving bell in the bottom of the North Sea. The strangest place. It was sitting with his well with the cup and his diving gear.
Awesome.
Wow.
I used to give away stuff on my channel all the time, and I had one guy in South Africa was the winner of a Harbor Freight multi-tester. Those things are only about $15. It cost me $30 to send it to him.
And with a bit of luck, the guy in South Africa has to pay taxes to go and get it in the post office.
Wow.
I don't know, but over here it's like this. Is if someone sends something to me, the post office contacted me to say, "Hey, you have to pay taxes, and then you can get your package." I don't have a problem with that. I pay, I go get it, no problem. But if you think sometimes it's worth nothing, and then the guy who sent it pays 25 or I don't know how much, and I pay another 20 or 25, that's 50 lost for value of nothing. It's a bit,
Yeah.
If somebody sends me something from America, I keep saying, don't put the value on. You can put the value in. Just put a value of $20. If you put $400, I'm going to pay the tax on the $400.
Of course.
And if I get the package and it's full of blunt taps and dies,
over here you can send it as a gift. And then officially is free of taxes.
That's right.
With a bit of luck, it works, but sometimes it doesn't. I received a little package this week, last week. I had to pay €22 for it. That's not a problem, I pay. It's part of the fun, but it's not for free.
No.
Well, I ship the precision ground stones all over the world. And what I do on the customs on that is just because it is a commercial product, I just include for pricing the actual price of the raw stone, what I pay for them from the manufacturer, and not the labor included. So it's a fair deal if somebody looks at it.
Of course, yeah.
And it's worth, $28 or whatever I pay for it.
When I made the Doubleboost AR collet spanners, the funny shaped ones, and I sold them all over the world. But if you wanted to buy one, say from America, eBay would contact me, and I would give us an address to post it off to, and then they would ship it from wherever they are across to the States, and the guy in the States had to pay. That was the only way to do it. Because for me to send a spanner across there is an absolute fortune.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Send a bulk to somebody here you trust, and then have them send it out.
Yeah, we would have to put something like that in a flat rate envelope, and international shipping on that is about $35.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how it works, but they obviously they pay for them, and I'll send them off, and then the shipping's taken over. So they go to somewhere in the UK, and then they're shipped from there, and that has nothing to do with me. I'll just get me a little bit of money for what I've made, and that's it.
John, I enjoy watching your channel because of your problem solving, and we do a lot of things very much the same, and I think it has to do with the fact that we're in the automotive business, and Everett's kind of the same way. We have a very, very similar approach in our problem solving skills, and because it's so consistent, it has to be coming through the automotive DNA that we have.
Possibly, yeah. When I was I worked in motorsport for a few years, and one year like on a support team for a racing car or a rally car, you can't say I can't do that. You can't say it can't be repaired. It's got to be repaired.
Mm-hmm.
Simply, just you've got to do it. That's what you're paid for, and that's
same thing. Yeah,
that's half the fun, It's some of the things we welded back together. Honestly, unbelievable. To get a car to finish a rally, unbelievable. You wouldn't believe what we did, and got away with it. 9 times out of 10.
The in commercial transport, there's some similarities there too, in that you can have two trucks sitting next to each other. One driver wants something one way, another driver wants something another way, and you gotta adapt everything to fit.
That's right.
And sometimes even I haven't been at work now for a few months, just home with kids, but one thing even just finding lately with the last year and a half with supply chain stuff, we've had to take a few parts off of other types of engines and modify them to fit another engine, or
You do what has to be done. Yeah.
exactly, making their own special tools and stuff, that sort of thing. It's part of the job.
And I do quite a lot of thread repairs. How you call it, strip studs, snap studs. People.
I think it's fun to do because it's always a bit of a challenge.
I think it's like 10 pound to get a broken bolt out. If they've had a good 20, I had a guy, aluminium casting, and he snapped an easy out in this hole. I mean, what am I going to do with that? I chopped the side off and re-welded it with aluminium, but if he left it alone, I would have gotten it out.
Yeah.
I used to, when I had broken taps and aluminum castings, I'd actually take a real fine tip on my cutting torch, and I could heat up the steel inside the aluminum with the torch, hit the oxygen, and blow it right out of there.
Yeah, you can. Yeah. Yep. In the motor trade, without heat, you couldn't repair anything, especially on old vehicles. Each part of the job now.
Well, I used to
with a corrosion probably really good.
Well, I used to work for a Chrysler dealer, and I don't know how many hundred exhaust manifold broken bolts that were sub-flush to the head there. And you're getting in there with I used a MIG and built up and then zapped a nut onto that little stud. And it's beautiful in aluminum just because of the expansion contraction rate differences. And it cracks it loose and spins it right out. It's awesome. But I mean, yeah, you have to do it. Either that or you're pulling the head.
If it's not tight, I'll use a left-hand drill. And when you put a left-hand drill into a hole and the stud comes out, it's a gorgeous feeling.
Yeah.
I did three. There were for a main dealer, and there was 3 of these studs snapped flush in the block. And I put the drill in, and they come straight out. And I quoted them like 50 quid a stud, and they were all out within 3 minutes. So I screwed them all back in, and I had to stand on to make a noise to justify my miserable existence. That's what you do with it. It doesn't always work like that. It's different when you're taking a job on. Because once you take the job on, it's your problem. And I've done jobs on snap studs and things, and I say, right, I don't want to do it, but I'll have a go. If it goes wrong, it's your problem, mate. Right? Do you want us to have a go at it or not? And if I don't get it out, you do need to pay us. But if I damage it, and most people say, well, there's nobody else, I'll have a go. And generally, if you go with that attitude, it's not too bad. That's where you have to go. Anyway, they can take it or leave it.
The worst jobs are when they lied to you and they didn't tell you that they already broke a drill off in there. And you start going to drill a stud out and you hit the hardened drill. That was painful.
if they've heated them up and they go hard.
Yeah.
There's always ways around things. If it's not
I know what you're talking about, Steve. Yeah, I had it several times. Oh, it's broke off here. Will you try? But of course, they tried before. Yeah, thank you. Always fun.
Over here, used to they would take the brake rotors and they would recut them, just make them straight. And they'd also do the same thing with the brake drums. And then I'd notice that they don't do it anymore. You do that stuff still over there?
The parts are too cheap. It's not. If they're specialised, I skimmed 2 drums of a Maserati sports car because they were an absolute fortune. You couldn't get them. But all your car discs and drums, an average small British car, you can pay £18 for a pair of discs. What's that? $30 a pair. You're doing skim them. It's a waste of time. When
I was still at the dealership there, the Dodge dealer, we did cut some rotors depending on the shape of them and the cost. Some of the big 3/4 ton, 1 ton rotors can actually be a few bucks, and you can, the time for those, if they aren't chewed up too badly, isn't so bad. But for the most part, if there's any question, yeah, just get new rotors because they're cheap enough now.
The thing with brakes is if you put new discs on and new pads on, you've got a guarantee.
Mm-hmm.
If you start machining a disc and it comes back with a break or 3 months down the line, it's your problem.
There's that too.
Now
Yeah.
I wouldn't put a set of pads in any vehicle. It has to have discs as well. If they just want the pads fit and take it somewhere else, that's the only way. Because
That was just starting when I sold my shop. I sold my machine shop in 1995, and that whole thing with the throwaway rotors was just beginning. So up to that point, I mean, we used to turn drums and rotors by the thousands.
Yeah.
I had several machines in the shop. You had stuff lined up there all day long to do.
We had a purpose-built machine for doing disc and drums, and it was always busy. And now it's, I don't know if it's still got it. A lot of the time you would machine and shell off the brakes because they weren't used enough. That was the lack of use. But
I had a drum lathe that was large enough that we could do the dual wheels off the 18-wheelers and so on with the wheels and tires on it.
Really?
And we could turn the drum actually with the wheel and tire on it. Wow. And it had a crane on top of it. You'd actually weigh it and set up, it had a bearing hanger that you would offset the weight on the spindle because the spindle was about 3 inches in diameter. We had a bearing that fit over it that you'd pull up and compensate for the weight of the drum and rotor on the spindle.
Years ago, there was a machine that would skim a discs on a car.
Yeah, never did that because we had the shop.
Put the counter off, and it put it onto the drive flange of the disc.
Yes.
And you could skim them on the car.
Yeah, 20 years ago when I was still at Honda, we had one of those as well. Because some of the Accords back in the day, you had to disassemble the hub in order to get the rotor off. Yeah. So those were a godsend for that. They were just
Some of the discs are behind the hub, behind the drive flange, and you can't get the bearings apart.
Yeah. And then a brake job gets real expensive real fast.
It can. When you're talking about brakes, it's a safety critical thing. So you just do.
Yep.
Just do what's right.
And actually, as you're talking about Steve talking about doing highway tractor drums and such, there's again same thing. They're so cheap now. You can actually get a gunite, whatever it was, 16.5 by 7 for like $65 Canadian. It's not even worth the time. So
we charge by the inch of width on them. I forget how much it was, but if it had a 6-inch wide shoe, you'd multiply whatever it was by 6, and that was pretty good money at the time.
I had been away from having a brake job done for quite a while when I discovered that that they don't turn them anymore. Just throw them away.
Yep.
I've had mine turned before.
Well, I have too, but around here, after about 1990 or 95, somewhere in there, all the drum turning machines disappeared, from the auto parts. You go to auto parts around here, they never even heard of turning a drum.
Well, I go to my dad's old work where he used to do stuff, and my cousin still works there, so they've got a drum and brake rotor turning machine, and they'll true your rotors up if you warp them or something, and of course if they're down past the spot, they'll throw them away. But
I see brake lathes on Craigslist all the time, cheap. And I'm trying to figure out what could you turn that into? What could you do with a brake lathe? Because they're pretty nice. It's a nice machine, but they're kind of a one-trick pony. Turn drums, turn rotors. That's all they really do. But and they've got an auto feed mechanism to resurface in 2 different directions. One way for rotors, another way for drums.
I have heard of people making adapters so you can do automotive flywheels, but I've never actually tried it myself.
I have done automotive flywheels on them. The problem is the automotive flywheels very often have heat checks and hard spots in them. And
ones too.
you can't get below that without ruining the flywheel. So we had to end up going and getting a grinder to do them. You can grind them flat.
Were you using a Blanchard style grinder, flat one?
Similar to that, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. We actually had an adapter to put in our engine, the head surfacer, the block surfacer. It was like a Lazy Susan. And you'd actually sit your wheel right down on it.
Now, if you sell center force pressure plates to your customers, they won't burn up their flywheels, but their left leg will be like Superman's.
I had one on my Mustang. I was a kid. It was tough.
The brake we had on a grinder attachment as well. It was a machine with an ordinary carbide cutter, and it had like a tool post grinder, and that put a really nice finish on the discs.
We used to do a lot of them for school buses. And the school bus drivers weren't the best. Didn't take care of them much as the best.
Well, folks, our machine flags just to lighten them for you know.
We're going to have to stop the live stream. So appreciate y'all showing up and viewing, and you guys that are here, and you can talk on here after things over.
And see you next time.